Okay, now that we've got the CMC board out of the control panel where we can work on it, there's a number of screws on the cover here that have to be removed to take it off. So there's going to be 8 of these guys, and I'm using a power driver in place of a Phillips head screwdriver. Either one will work just fine. But anyway, you want to hang on to those 8 screws as well, because you're going to have to reinstall those whenever we put the new base module cover in place. So okay, now after you've removed the screws from the cover, you just merely pull the cover off and set it to the side. Pretty simple operation. That's going to expose the I/O card, and it's also going to expose the CPU card. Okay, now the CPU card has got to come off as well, because it's a situation where you're going to put the new I/O interface card on there, and that will allow you to interface between the I/O portion here of the CPU or of the CMC and the CPU or the PLC that we're going to be putting in place of it. To take those screws out, it's pretty simple. You're going to use your 5/16 nut driver again, and you're going to take these 4 nuts off the board and lay those to the side. Now you won't be reusing those nuts, so you can toss those out after you're finished up. Now one of the nice things about utilizing our I/O card and your existing CMC I/O, any external wiring that's been put in place over the life of the product stays in place. And so we're just merely interfacing with those signals. So if you've done special features or added special I/O to your system over the years, all that stays in place. So that's one of the nice things about having the removable CPU card and then reusing your I/O module that's in place. Okay, now this guy right here has got to be pulled off of the board. There's a 96 pin DIN connector on each one of these boards, right? And this is what plugs and passes the signals between the CPU card and the I/O card. Okay, so to get that guy off of there, typically all you do is just grab it like that and rock it a little bit and it'll pop straight off, right? Okay, so that's all that you end up having to do. Now, there are some fiber washers or spacers here that need to remain in place. So there's 4 of those, so make sure those 4 items stay in place whenever you're working on the board. Now the next thing you want to do is go and pull your new I/O card out, and as I mentioned earlier, there's a box of goodies that comes with each one of these systems. In one of the bags you're going to find some standoffs and you're going to find some fuses, right? So let's go in and grab the fuses. Okay, what we need to do here is these are a smaller 1.5 amp fuse that's on the board. We need to take those out and put a higher amp fuse in there. So it's pretty easy to do with a small flat blade screwdriver. You just go in there and flip these, kind of roll it sideways like that and flip these up. And then you can pull these fuses out, set them to the side, right? And then put your new fuses in. So that's a pretty straightforward operation for you to take place and work on here, is getting these fuses upgraded so that you've got a little more beef as far as the amp draw or the amp capability, because the HMI takes a little more power than the CPU card from the old base module. And also you're going to have the power for the PLC now that's going to be going in there. So we just basically go back and plug these same 5 by 20 millimeter fuses in place of the old ones. And now you've upgraded this portion of the board. You've gone ahead and you've added your new fuses. Okay, to put the I/O card in, it's a very simple matter of make sure that you line up the large connector with the large connector on the board. And you go in and you just let that guy slide right down on top there like that. It'll be a little bit tight. Now, you don't need to force anything, because if you're not careful, you'll actually roll some of the terminals over inside the connector. So we want to make sure that the thing fits on there nice and easy. Okay, and once it's in place, you just press it down like that. That's all that you do. So now you've got your system mounted, and you got your new I/O card. So here's what it looks like. And this, remember, has got all your I/O markings and connections here. So anyway, once we've got that taken care of, the next thing we want to do is we want to put in our standoffs. Now these are 1.5 inch standoffs. And what they do, they basically hold the board in place, and they also allow a mounting surface for the top cover to screw to. So anyway, if you'll notice what I've got here, I've got 3 that are steel, and then I've got a 4th one which is nylon. The nylon one we want to put down on this end of the board down here, that's where the 24 volt connections are located. What I've done is, as a safety precaution, if you happen to be troubleshooting the board and the cover is off and you ground out from a 24 volt head of the screw into the cover, it'll actually blow the fuse on the board, okay? Or if you ground it into the edge, for example, of a metal standoff over here, it would also blow the fuse. So what we do to help protect against that is we put a nylon standoff in this location, and then also the main board is going to have a piece of rubber, insulating material that's going to be added to it so that it will keep your screwdriver blade, for example, from grounding in against other metal objects, so it'll keep it from blowing a fuse if you happen to be troubleshooting. Now the remainder, all these can be metal, no issue here. I don't really recommend taking a tool and tightening these really tight. Basically you can go with finger tight and give it a good little twist, and that's going to be probably good enough for mounting these. If you feel like that's not secure enough, you can take a nut driver, a 1/4 inch nut driver, and you can give it a little more of a turn, but not very much, because we don't want it so tighten everything in there that you end up stressing one of the screws and breaking the screw off or doing something else. So anyway, that's what the system looks like. Now we're at the point now where we want to put the main cover with the CPU over it. So in just a moment I'll bring in another product here that'll show you kind of what a completed board's going to look like.